I would like to begin by asking a question, and that is whether any of you have ever been told that you can't do something because you don't look like or act like people who have gone before you and been successful in that endeavor. Maybe that's a project or a job or a course of study or a career thrust. Can you please raise your hands if you've ever been told you couldn't do something or shouldn't try? Okay, that's a lot of hands. That does not surprise me. Almost as soon as I started working for the CIA, I was told I couldn't do that job. In January 2002, I began an intensive course of training with a group of students, and the purpose of that training was to teach us how to be undercover intelligence officers. And because there are issues of life and death, and you have to be taught how to protect yourself, your colleagues, your sources, and your information, it is incredibly important that you really understand the ins and the outs of that tradecraft. So for that reason, each two students are paired with one mentor. And so I'll never forget the first time my training partner Adam and I met our mentor, because we found out he was a living legend at the CIA. I mean, this guy defined successful operations in the field. And so he came into our little student office, and he came to introduce himself to us and kind of explain how things were going to go. And as soon as he started talking, I started realizing that he wasn't really looking at me. And as it went on in the conversation, I'm a student of nonverbal behavior, so I noticed that we're making no eye contact. So I started scooting my chair towards Adam and leaning over, trying to get in his line of sight. And he wouldn't look at me. And so after that 20 minutes intro, he left, and my friend Adam said, "Well, that was weird." I'm like, "Did you notice that?" He's like, "How could I not notice that? It was like you weren't even in the room." And I'm like, "Yeah, wow." And so therein led to many weeks of very awkward interactions with our mentor, in which he never really looked at me. And then something interesting happened. Adam dropped out of the program because he decided he didn't want to be an intelligence officer. So my mentor had to look at me because there was nobody else in the room. And so he almost immediately admitted to me that he had never worked with women in operations. And during his time in the CIA, women had been secretaries. So he couldn't wrap his head around the fact that I wanted to do clandestine work. And so he said to me, "Michele, what specifically do you want to do for the agency?" And I said, "Well, I want to do counterterrorism work, and I want to go to the Middle East." And he's like, "You can't do that. You're a girl. And look at you. You're smiley, you're friendly. I mean, this is a really dangerous business." And I'm like, "Yeah, I got that." And then I started to think about what he was saying, because when you're a counterterrorism officer, your job is to meet clandestinely with sources who are going to give you the insider information you need to stop attacks from occurring. So who are you going to be meeting with? It's not the Boy Scouts of America. It's bad guys. So you're meeting with terrorists, insurgents, or people who know them very well. And what kind of people are they? They hold extremist ideology and very different ideas of women and their roles in society. And I knew that because I'd been studying the Middle East. I'd been getting abroad as often as possible. I was really trying to understand the nuances of Arab culture. But I was crushed because I was like, "Why did you just bring me in if you don't think I can do this job?" But I did get through that year of training, and I'm walking through the halls of the great CIA, and I'm totally intimidated because I graduated from Tavares High School, and I'm from Lake County, and I never knew anyone who worked for the CIA. I didn't even know that was a real job. So you've already got this intimidation factor, and I'm looking at the people who are advanced in their careers, who've been promoted, who are very successful. And they look nothing like me, and they act nothing like me. I mean, I would walk through the hallways, and I'd be like, "Good morning, how's everybody doing?" And they look at you like, "What's wrong with you?" And so I started trying to change myself and my personality to be less friendly, to be less outgoing, to be less Michele. because I thought, I'm going to be lucky just to be good enough here at the agency. Forget trying to get ahead or promoted or do a really good job. I might just be average. And so I carried that burden on my shoulder for years in the agency until my husband Joseph and I were surged to Baghdad in 2006. And it was a horrible place that no one wanted to go to, but it turned out to be an enormous blessing for me. A 27-year-old American NGO worker was brutally murdered on the streets of Baghdad within the first couple months of our arrival there. And we were asked to try to figure out who executed this attack on this young lady. And so what this did, this project that no one else wanted to take that was kind of forced on me, was it finally got me into clandestine operations with bad guys, the thing that had been kept from me this entire time. And so I remember preparing for my first meeting, and it's with a guy, we'll call him Abu Muhammad. Like, Abu Muhammad was no joke. He was such a bad guy, and God knows how many people he had killed in his terrorist career before partnering with the CIA to help us in our operations. And so I'm getting ready to walk in the door, and I'm so excited because I finally get to meet a terrorist. I know that's weird. But I'm also really nervous because I realize what it is I have to achieve in this moment, and it is significant. And I have so many liabilities against me. What are they? I'm an American. I'm a CIA intelligence officer. I am an infidel, and I'm a woman, right? So the deck is completely stacked against me. And I am very cognizant of the challenges that I'm facing in my confrontation with Abu Muhammad. I have a mountain, a huge distance that I have to cross in order to achieve my objectives in this meeting. And I'm thinking about, okay, what is Abu Muhammad going to think about me when I walk through that door? Okay, first of all, the shock of a woman. Then he's going to think, what is she doing here? She couldn't possibly be intelligent, completely out of her league. What does she think she's doing trying to involve herself in the dangerous world of espionage, manipulation, torture, and murder that we were dealing with in the war zone? And then you have this other weird gender dynamic. Because it's such a sexually repressed society and he's from such an extremist background, men and women who are not allowed to be in a room unless they're related to each other. First of all, a woman should never even leave the home, okay? And if you leave the home, you have to have a male escort. Your husband, your father, your brother, your son. And if you leave the home, you need to be completely covered. So when I walk through the door, I might as well have two horns sticking out of my head. He's then thinking that I'm immoral and I cannot be respected. Now, the reason why this is so critical is because, as distasteful as Abu Muhammad is, he is risking his life to partner with the CIA. And if he doesn't trust me, then, and I mishandle him or his information, I could get him killed. If he's identified as the source of the information, he's going to get his head cut off and his corpse thrown in his family's front yard, which was happening all over the country. So he had to trust me. So how do you get past all of these issues to make the connection you need to make? I'm like breathing so heavy, and I finally have that moment and I realize, you know what, Michele? Just go in there and be yourself and do things the way you think they need to be done. So I straighten my blazer and take a deep breath and knock on the door, walk in, and step through the threshold. Abu Muhammad's across the room. As soon as he sees me, he jumps out of his chair, and I can see in his face, he's thinking, yes, because I'm an uncovered woman. And so I walk in the door, I know, woo. I walk in the door, and I go and I shake his hand very firmly, and I say, Abu Muhammad, kaifik ya khuya, salamu alaikum, fursa saida. Okay, shock factor. Bikalam Arabi? You speak Arabic? Taban, like, why wouldn't I? So what I've done in that moment is I've shocked him, and that's exactly where I want him to be. And then I say, Abu Muhammad, I know everything about you. You do? Yes, I do. I have been following you very closely. I've read your entire file, and I know the risks you've taken to work with the CIA, and I know that we have saved countless lives because of your work. So what did I do in that moment? I fed his ego. And terrorists have enormous egos, let me tell you. And also in that moment, because I'm a woman starting out below zero in terms of respect, I'm pushing myself up here because I'm taking control of the meeting and I'm taking authority by complimenting him. All of this was going through my head as a strategy to make Abu Muhammad see me as something different. Can you help what somebody thinks about when you walk in the room? No. But you have a really good chance of changing their mind before you walk back out again. So the last thing I did in this strategy is I started talking to Abu Muhammad about Iraq and Iraqi culture and what the sectarian strife was doing to the fabric of society. And as I'm talking about very detailed pieces of this culture, Abu Muhammad said, "You understand my country?" I said, "Yes, I've been studying it for a long time. I've been traveling." And he's like, "Wow." And then something magical happens. The tension, which you could have cut with a knife in that room, dissipates. I mean, you could sense a change in the atmosphere because Abu Muhammad said, "I like her, she's professional, and she's really smart." Bingo. I've got Abu Muhammad to come exactly where I need him to be in that moment, and guess what? It happened under 5 minutes. 5 minutes or less, and I completely changed his mind about me. Now I have taken what I have been told for years is my liability, and I have completely turned it on its head. And now Abu Muhammad wanted to work harder to please me. Why? Because I was different, because I was unique, and because I grabbed his attention as being something so outside the norm. I had taken my disadvantages and I made them my advantages by bringing my authentic self into that room that day and using that as a guide for this operation. It was, when I walked back out of that room, I just had one of those moments that was just a life-changing, career-changing moment. And I said, wow, how many times do we hold ourselves back because somebody tells us we can't do something, or we tell ourselves, which I certainly did as well. And I'm here to tell you that never listen to anyone who says you can't do something because you don't fit the profile of people who've gone before you. Because what makes you different enables you to shine if you're not scared of it. And so you've got to find a way to bring your unique ideas, perspective, and personality to the table because only you can do things in a new and different way, and that is a secret to your success. And that is transformation. Thank you.